rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. Oh, yeah. Boy, this day for me has just been one thing right after another. I barely got done with getting everything set up for tonight, for coming on the air. In fact, I was a little worried that there might have been a spot where all of a sudden, boom, there'd be nobody here, you know. Anyway, enough about me. I was hurrying, rushing around, and thank goodness I didn't knock anything over. All right, tonight, of course, is none other than...
Down to business.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
That's right, it's Whiskey Wednesday. It's like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. And for tonight, I'll be drinking out of the Four Roses single barrel. And we'll be doing that out of the wonderful True Grit Roots Network glass in that famous red, white, and blue. And I love that logo. I love that logo. So anyway, requisite first sip. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yes. Anyway, let's go ahead and get things kicked off with tonight's Pledge of Allegiance. My news. That's right. My news is over in the green room getting her vocal cords ready. I can hear her. She's sitting there doing the scales, you know, la, 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 that kind of thing. And, yes. Anyway, let's go ahead and pass this on over to my news as, she recites the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand, remove your hat. If you're wearing one like me, place your hand over your heart and follow along with my news as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you, my news, for that wonderful rendition of the Pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the Pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting the Pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, or whatever kind of file and attach it to an email. Send that email off to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will get you into the rotation. Well, it looks like my, it looks like my Whiskey Warriors are, of course, the most informed listening audience, the most intelligent listening audience on the etherwebs, or the interwebs, I should say. Beck, I will get to that. All right. That is in tonight's deal. Anyway, there's just so much stuff to talk about, but we really got to talk about this fantastic place. Speaking of the interwebs, the fantastic place on the interwebs known as True Grit Roots Network, TGRN.net. As you can see, we welcome you. You can go to TGRN.net And you can listen to one of our two fantastic signature radio or signature channels, radio channels, Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio or Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio. You can listen to both of them. Well, not at the same time, of course, but both of them on the web. You can see there's the web widgets. All you have to do is press the play button. That's all you have to do is press the play button. Or, and we of course would appreciate this, but we would love it if you would download one of our apps, either the one for Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio or the other one for Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio, or do them both. I mean, there's no reason why you can't download both of them and just switch back and forth depending upon what your mood for music feels like. Yes, you can grab those in either the App Store or Google Play. And that definitely is just a fantastic thing. You know, if you want to get away from all of this politics stuff, and especially for Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio, I can tell you it's all the cool shit, none of the bullshit. And I ain't playing with you on that one because Dallas Moore tells you so. That's right. The man himself says he plays all of the cool shit, none of the bullshit. So anyway, go and check out either one. And then also, it would be fantastic if you would go up here to the shop. I'm flashing it right now. And no, that doesn't mean I'm like stripping. I'm flashing it in red. And you can click on that shop button and you can go and head over to our shop, or you can head just straight to shop.tgrn.net and you can take a look at all of our swag. We have the TGRN True Grit Roots Network logo on some t-shirts and sweatshirts and a cap, as well as the Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio and the Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio. And you can go and select whatever style and size you want, and you can get your t-shirt, hoodie, or your cap in whatever logo that you want. And why not buy all three and then just rotate and show off your wonderful support of the True Grit Roots Network and our two signature channels. Head on over to shop.tgrn.net to get those, or go to tgrn.net just to listen and take care of business over there. Yeah. Anyway, TGRN stands for True Grit Roots Network, and we are based out of Austin, Texas. Fantastic setup. Okay, here we go. And yes, I opened up the door. I derailed stuff. My Whiskey Warrior P1s and unofficial producers over in Rumble Land are all freaking out because I mentioned that I was flashing. Anyway, speaking of flashing, I know, bad segue, very bad segue, but apparently the U.S. military shut down El Paso. The El Paso airport for a little while. At first, they announced that they were going to do it for like 10 days. And then they rescinded that. But apparently, they found, they essentially shot down a party balloon near El Paso, according to Fox News, after suspicion of drones were running around. And, you know, keep in mind, drones are something that everybody can buy. I mean, seriously, everybody can buy a drone. Okay. And, oh, thanks for the help on the segue, Jarhead. Jarhead over on Rumble goes, they closed it in a flash. They did. It was pretty quick. But anyway, they apparently shot down what was later determined to be a party balloon near El Paso, Texas, after initially assessing it as a possible foreign drone. The misidentification eventually led to the total shutdown of airspace around the El Paso airport. They also had Mexican cartel drones breach U.S. airspace near El Paso, and that counter-drone measures were taken to disable them. The Pentagon has been testing some new counter-drone technology, including a high-energy laser near the Army base, I should say, at Fort Bliss, Texas. That laser was used to shoot down what appeared to be foreign drones and was later identified as a balloon, prompting the airspace closure by the FAA. So there you go. That's what happened. Now, I can tell you that the drones are seriously a big problem because they're small, they're easily able to be purchased, even like some of the commercial size drones, some of the bigger drones are not all that expensive. And anyway, there you go. So unclear whether or not the cartel drones were related to the identified balloon. They really don't know. But anyway, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said earlier today that the FAA and the Department of War had acted swiftly to address a cartel drone incursion. The threat had been neutralized and there was no danger to commercial travel in the region. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said Wednesday that her government had no information indicating drone activity along the U.S.-Mexico border following the temporary airspace restriction in Texas that the U.S. officials linked to counter-drone measures. She said in a news conference, "We have no information indicating drone activity along the border, but if the FAA and the U.S. government or any U.S. government agency has relevant information, they can ask directly the government of Mexico." She also said that Mexican airspace had not been closed. So, anyway, well, there you go. That's part of it. Well, in a blow to the leftist narratives, have you ever gotten to a point, seriously, have you ever gotten to a point where you are feeling as though there's some things that are vindicating your thought process? And especially for somebody like me who sits here and makes, statements about things in public, and a lot of them, are considered controversial by at least a good portion of the United States, but yet every single time I turn around, there is evidence of being vindicated. For an example, I've been telling people for a very long time that the Epstein files, that there really isn't anything on Donald Trump, that Donald Trump has not been part of the Epstein files in the way that the left wants him to be, that Donald Trump, it did what he did. He kicked Epstein out. He participated. I mean, this is all publicly available information. He participated in the initial prosecution of Epstein in Florida. All of these things, and I'm just using Epstein as an example, but that's one thing in particular. Now we see the Epstein files. There's released documents that basically show that Donald Trump was talking to police about Epstein and was glad that he was finally being investigated, and that Ghislaine Maxwell was literally evil. Well, now we have some substantiated irregularities in Georgia in the 2020 vote counts. And here's yet another supposedly conspiracy theory, but I'm going to tell you, nowadays conspiracy theories are getting to the point where they are now known as spoiler alerts. Because let's be honest, here in Georgia in 2020, there were some very strange things that were going on. You remember in Atlanta, Fulton County, that the images of that person, that individual, pulling out basically suitcase-sized boxes of ballots. The fact that they quote unquote closed because of a water leak that was turned out to be just a toilet or something in the bathroom. And all of those things where they went and they were putting up, they were shown putting up big pieces of, I don't know, cardboard or whatever up to try and block people from looking in. Well, the FBI's affidavit was brought forth, put in the public, and the FBI has substantiated some of the major irregularities in terms of how the votes were counted. Now, there shouldn't be any surprise on this. There really shouldn't. Because of the plain and simple fact that we already knew the Georgia Election Commission, they went ahead and, already stated that, hey, we had 315 or so thousand vote tally sheets that were incorrectly signed. And they've been going back and forth and saying, hey, Fulton County, you guys are kind of screwing these things up. And, yeah. So anyway, FBI Special Agent Hugh Raymond Evans first filed the affidavit last month to establish probable cause for a raid that seized about 700 boxes of Georgia 2020 elections ballots from a storage warehouse in the Atlanta area. After he got a referral from the Trump White House election integrity czar, Kurt Olson. The affidavit itself included information gleaned from FBI interviews with about a dozen unnamed witnesses recounting various allegations that dated back to the disputed 2020 election in Georgia, in which Joe Biden was narrowly declared the winner over Donald Trump. And yes, there was just a little over 11,000 votes difference there. Now, Evans wrote that some of the allegations have been disproven, while some of the allegations have been substantiated, including through admissions by Fulton County itself. This warrant application is part of an FBI criminal investigation into whether any improprieties were intentional acts that violated criminal law or federal criminal laws. Now, Evans' affidavit, dated January 28th, cited 5 major areas of irregularities that are under investigation, including the following. Fulton County has admitted that it does not have scanned images of all the 528,777 ballots counted in the original count, or those of 527,925 ballots counted during the state's first recount, meaning that there is a major loss of evidence there. Fulton County has also confirmed that the recount of votes during the recount of votes, that some ballots were scanned multiple times. I kind of mentioned this, I think. I recall mentioning this. Anyway, the affidavit said, quote, ballot images made available in response to public record requests show ballots with unique markings duplicated within the ballot images. Then, on another point, during the risk limiting audit, auditors counted the votes by hand, auditors counting the votes by hand reported vote tallies for batches inconsistent with the actual votes within the batch. Quote, the state's Performance Review Board reported that Secretary of State investigators confirmed inaccurate batch tallies from the risk limiting audit. Auditors assisting the risk limiting audit reported counting purported absentee ballots that had never been creased or folded. You remember this? Okay. as would be required for the ballot to be mailed to the voter and for the ballot to be returned in a sealed envelope, requiring the voter's signature for authentication. Do you remember when that was a big question? It was like, hey, some of these ballots are coming back and they're flat. They're flat pages. They hadn't been folded. Now, on the day of the deadline to report the recount results, Fulton County reported a recount totaling 511,343 ballots, which is 17,434 ballots fewer than the original count. And the following day, Fulton County then reported a total of 527,925 ballots counted. Okay, so here's the thing, folks. Whether or not any of this goes anywhere, okay, regardless of whether there was actual malfeasance versus misfeasance, and for those of you that don't understand the difference, malfeasance is intentional, misfeasance is, well, something happened, but it wasn't intended to happen, but it happened anyway and affected things. The questions have to be asked. And if you recall, 2020 was, quote unquote, by the left, the most secure election ever. Well, here's the thing, folks, regardless. And even if you sit here and everything comes out perfectly 100% fine, hey, it was just human error, we can't find anything, okay, the total vote count wouldn't have changed anything. It still doesn't mean that you should not investigate. The whole idea that the left had was like, hey, we're going to go ahead and just ignore the fact that any of this stuff happens. Just like the fact that they're going to ignore the fact that the New York Times wrote a piece a few years ago that mail-in balloting and mail-in voting is fraught with fraud. They're just going to ignore that because it's not supportive of their desired outcome. And so this is why I'm telling you, I personally am sitting here and saying, as far as I'm concerned, okay, 2020, the reason why 2020 went to Joe Biden is literally, in terms of a nationwide crossover, is literally because of the fact that the mainstream media covered up the Hunter Biden laptop story, which was entirely 100% true. That the mainstream media and government agencies and the digital tech companies like X covered all of that up. Okay? And because of that, that is why you do investigations like this. Now, again, whether or not anything comes out because of this, who knows? Whether or not anybody goes to jail because of this, who knows? The point that I'm making, though, is that even if there is especially on something like this, that accuracy is extremely important. Accuracy is extremely important. You need to make sure that everything lines up. And this is the thing. Now, back in 2021, Just the News had reported that a contractor had sent to Fulton County to observe the voting on behalf of Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, had chronicled widespread confusion, mistakes, and irregularities in the vote count. The fact that the affidavit had cited. Governor Brian Kemp had also referred Fulton County for investigation for miscounting ballots based on information from Just the News. Now, despite those concerns, Raffensperger insisted none of the problems affected the outcome of Biden defeating Trump in the state. But one of the witnesses in the FBI affidavit identified as witness number 4, was a top lieutenant to Raffensperger and acknowledged to the FBI that he was unaware of some of the corroborated irregularities and admitted that they were possibly problematic. The affidavit said, the director of elections for the Georgia Secretary of State in 2020 was not aware of physical ballots not matching the number of ballot images. Witness 4 said a discrepancy like that would be problematic, but did not know if anyone went back and checked it. Witness 4 said during the hand count, they did not audit for issues like image discrepancies. He said the images are just duplicates. It would be more concerning if there were discrepancies between the physical ballots and voter count. The concern is less about the images and more about the balance and voter count. Yeah. Anyway. So there you go. Now, the question, of course, comes up with regards to this is where do we go with this? And I personally am saying, you know, this is one of those things where it's kind of like water is completely under the bridge, which is exactly what the Democrats wanted everybody to do after 2020. It's like, oh, well, we can't, you know, Hillary Clinton's, what difference does it make now? Kind of scenario. And while I somewhat agree, we can't go back and relitigate the entire thing. However, what we can do is we can find out why and how all of this occurred and block it. Figure out how to block it. Because again, even if somebody doesn't go down for this, criminally speaking, we still want to make sure that mistakes like this don't need to be reoccurring on a regular basis. All right. Well, speaking of lying, I see breaking news here in just the news. I don't know if anybody's watching this. I haven't really been watching this very much, but apparently Apple News is under investigation now because Apple News has had an alleged left-wing bias. See, this is part of the reason why shows like mine are attempting to get out the truth and the reality. We've seen Google get hit because they have a left-wing bias. We know the mainstream media all has a left-wing bias. And now we have things like Apple News that has left-wing bias. So the FTC chair has warned Apple News that it could violate consumer protection laws based off of this alleged left-wing bias. So the FTC sent a letter Wednesday to the company about that. The letter comes after a Media Research Center study found that 440 out of the 620 stories that were featured on Apple News during high-traffic morning time slots between January 1st and 31st were from left-leaning outlets, according to the New York Post. The FTC chairman, Andrew Ferguson, wrote in a letter, quote, "These reports raise serious questions about whether Apple News is acting in accordance with its terms of service and its representations to consumers." He also urged Apple's CEO, Tim Cook, to conduct a comprehensive review of Apple's terms of service and ensure that the Apple News curation of articles is consistent with those terms and representations made to consumers, and if it is not, to take corrective action swiftly. Ferguson noted that Apple is actually required to comply with Section 5 of the FTC Act, which prohibits unfair or deceptive acts or practices, including material misrepresentations and material omissions. Like the First Amendment protects the speech of big tech firms, but the First Amendment has never extended to protection to material misrepresentations made to consumers, nor does it immunize speakers from conduct that Congress has deemed unfair under the FTC Act, even if that conduct involves speech. So there you go. Well, speaking of the Constitution, you remember yesterday I played for you that appalling Democrat sheriff out east. Oh my gosh. Well, apparently there is now a GOP lawmaker. His name is Representative Wesley Hunt, and I got to tell you, this guy, for those of you that don't know what he looks like, here, there he is, right there. I like this guy. I like him a lot. Everything. He's another, in my mind, he's like another Byron Donalds, in my opinion. But, yeah. Anyway, I have no idea where my chat is going. They are completely... Whoops. Hey, does that only work on, I thought that would work here. What? Well, let's go back. No, not that one. Sorry. Hold on, guys. Something happened to my thing here. There we go. I guess it does only work on that. All right. Looks like I have something to fix. But my chat has gone nuts. All right. My chat has gone nuts. Anyway, where was I? All right. Whoops. Some of these buttons that I use, they do different things occasionally. So obviously I got to fix that. All right, so here he is. He wants Congress to take and pass a basic civics exam. Yes, that's right. And I agree. I think this should be part of, before you even get elected, you need to, take the exam, and that should be part of signing up to become a representative. You should have to take this exam. And honestly, I'm going to tell you, it should be on par with the naturalization test. I mean, seriously, if you want to be a leader in our government, you need to at least have a basic understanding of our government. So Hunt apparently introduced a bill on Monday that would create a new constitutional amendment that would be requiring members of Congress to pass a basic civics test before taking their oath of office. See, I actually think we need to cut it off even earlier than that. We need to get it before you can even apply to run. End of story. So the bill text, which is obtained by Blaze News, Hunt, who is running for Senate, sorry, there's nothing to really look at there. Hunt, who is running for Senate, noted that his Congressional Civics Act would simply insist elected officials pass the same civics test foreigners are required to take in order to become naturalized citizens. There you go. That is fantastic. He goes, and this is so true. Excuse me. This is so true. He says, as leaders, we swear an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. An oath I take seriously. We must ensure that those entrusted with the highest level of American leadership fully understand that oath. Yeah, I agree. Now, naturalized citizens, by the way, apparently have a near perfect pass rate. Unfortunately, just 1 in 3 Americans are able to pass the same test, according to a national survey conducted by the Institute for Citizens and Scholars. Notably, applicants need to get only 12 out of 20 of the multiple choice questions correct, totaling just 60%. I'm just going to tell you right now. I think that actually needs to be higher. If you're going to be in Congress, you better get 100% on that. Okay, maybe 80. Because we'll give you a little bit of leeway. But if you're asked 20, this is totally, I mean, this is nothing unusual, folks. I'm serious. This has been this way for years. You have standard American citizens who cannot take the naturalization test because they just don't know. And why do you sit here and think that the left, seriously, why do we sit here and expect the left to actually understand and know the Constitution? I mean, hell, I don't know how many times I run into so many different people who are like, hey, did you know that the Constitution of the United States gives you the right to throw off your government and to start fresh? Like, it's legal. Folks, my Whiskey Warrior P1s know this. That's the Declaration of Independence, which isn't a legal document. It's a founding one, yes, but it's not a legal document. Oh, my unofficial producer's right there in my court. Of course, I would expect her to be. Nana of JJS says they should be required to get at least 16 out of 20 questions correct, which is an 80% pass. I agree. I don't know if anybody's done this, but I've taken the practice exams just because anytime I see, by the way, anytime I see this any of these practice exams are like, hey, take this quiz on American history, I go ahead and take them because I want to compare my knowledge of history. And let me just say, I've got a pretty good run rate in terms of passing. And I'm talking about not just barely passing. I'm talking like passing explicitly, very up there. Anyway. Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you, Mr. Hunt. Yeah. So apparently, if the amendment is ratified, the exam would consist of 25 questions drawn from a pool of over 100 questions that cover constitutional literacy in American history. The passing standards would be set by Congress for each 10-year census term. And until the amendment is ratified, the legislation requires that members pass the civics exam before being assigned to a committee, starting with the 120th Congress. The bill would also provide for the public release of test results of all members who managed to successfully complete the exam. You know, that shouldn't be like manage. What's this talking about manage? These guys should be able to frickin' pass it. I mean, oh my God, you're in Congress. You are doing what you are supposed to be doing with the Constitution. Holy crap. Now, you know what? I got to tell you. We've talked about the Institute on the Constitution and how the Institute on the Constitution has instructors, volunteer instructors. I'm going to tell you this right now. If this were to go into effect and you had to have congressional leaders have to take remedial courses, sign me up to be an instructor for that. Seriously. I would wake these people's asses up. There is so much that is so misinterpreted in terms of the Constitution, who it applies to, what it is for, what they can do, the things that they are supposed to be allowed to do, the things that they can't do. There would be so much. Hell, sign my ass up. I'll fly out to Washington and I will give the class. I will give the class. And it'll be, I don't even know. I mean, to me, it should be, a month-long course. And they're going to go through everything. They're going to go through everything. I'm talking the Federalist Papers, the Anti-Federalist Papers, the James Madison Notes on the Constitutional Convention, all of the congressional record on things like all of the amendments when they were passed, etc., etc., etc. Yeah. I'm right behind you there, Mr. Hunt, but I want to go a lot more extreme with this. A lot more extreme. All right. I love this. This would be absolutely fantastic. All right. Let me take a quick break here. I know it's a little early, but we're going to take a quick break before I move on to my next segment of stories. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not really looking forward to this next segment of stories, but we're going to go ahead and do them anyway, because that's what we do on this show. We put together truth, facts, evidence, so on and so forth. Well, I really needed this morning. I tell you, my alarm went off and I had a hard time dragging my ass out of bed this morning. Seriously, straight up. And I needed my coffee. I needed more than just my 16-ounce cup, although I only did the 1 16-ounce. That's just the way just the way things are. But if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped. There's a small number of units available. You're getting the Bull Dark Roast that hits hard. You'll also be receiving the Smooth Medium Roast and the Vitality Mushroom Coffee for clean energy and laser focus with no crash. All of these coffees are single origin. And by the way, they've got another one as well that is an anti-aging coffee that's a part of it as well, part of their group they just released. You know, also too, I know I'm digressing from the script, but I got to tell you, Rumble, if you cut me out of this, I'm trying to tout your coffee here. They've got K-cups and they've got whole beans, and you can purchase them as well. All right. You can purchase the K-cups. So if you have something like a Keurig, like what I do, you need to go and get that stuff. Seriously. But anyway, you'll be getting, as a part of the starter kit, you'll be getting all of these coffees that are single origin, small batch, toxin free, and mold free. Plus, you're also getting the Gold Spoon clip. Now, they have a picture of the Gold Spoon clip out there on their website, and you can go and take a look at it. And in fact, they have a special going on right now where you can do a subscription. Okay. So if you go to 1775coffee.com/studio, you'll be presented with a new bundle. This bundle, it has a subscription along with getting the starter kit. And the starter kit, you can actually choose between the Gold Spoon clip or a K-cup clip, or a K-cup little thing to put in where you can grind your beans and put them in the K-cup instead of using just the K-cups, if that makes any sense. Anyway, you'll also be receiving a frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions, as well as the black 1775 tumbler. It's $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for just $99. Or if you get that bundle, you'll pay for the subscription of the coffee and get the starter kit for free. Anyway, this is for the ones who've been watching 1775 coffee blow up on Rumble and wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it is. If you go to 1775coffee.com, you know what? I'm just going to do this because this is in the middle of the spot, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. 1775coffee.com/STUDIO. That's right. And here it is. Here is, let me show you. Oh, goodness. You guys, there it is. There's your Vitality Mushroom Coffee. You can get 15% off by using Brain Boost 15. You have all kinds of revolutionary connections. There's just all kinds of stuff. Brewing through the bullshit is what they say. You can go and check it all out at 1775coffee.com, 1775coffee.com/studio. You can go and check out all of their stuff and get their starter kit. This is, that's the Vitality Mushroom Coffee. If you go to the shop all, and there you have the K-Cup pods. They have protein creamer as well. Other merch, limited edition stuff. But you can get all of this. There's your whole bean, ground bean coffee, functional coffee, all made delicious. There's your K-Cups in either the dark roast pod, the medium roast, or the Vitality Mushroom roast. I mean, just go and check it out. And then Coffee Protein, you can get their creamer, their protein creamer that delivers 10 grams of pure protein in every serving. Just head on over to 1775coffee.com. That's 1775coffee.com. And you can go to the /studio to check out all of their stuff. It's all right here. It's all right here. Go and check it out. 1775coffee.com. Bull beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Go to 1775coffee.com and grab your starter kit before they are gone. All right, we'll see if Rumble accepts that ad read. Anyway. You know, sometimes with some of these ad reads, I'm not supposed to ad lib to the spot. In fact, many of the spots I actually skip because of the fact that they won't allow me the freedom to just ad lib. So anyway. All right. Well, folks, it was bound to happen. And one day it did. And no, I'm not reciting a Garth Brooks song or a, I can't think of it, David Allan Coe song. I'm not reciting the lyrics to either one. Folks, there was a nasty shooting up in British Columbia, just north of me, at a high school. And it apparently turns out that the shooter, well, there's 9 people killed in connection with this. The suspect itself was found dead. It was at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School in BC. 2 of the victims were airlifted to a hospital with serious or life-threatening injuries. A third victim died while being transported to the hospital. During the investigation, police also identified a secondary location that apparently was the shooter's parents. So now the Canadian school shooter has been identified, folks. And yes, it is a transgender individual. The total counts now, 7 people have been killed or were killed. Another 25 have been injured, according to this town hall report. The suspect was originally described as a woman wearing a dress, and the phrase gun person was used by the Canadian police to describe the suspect, which of course led many to believe that the shooter was transgender. And the gunman was found dead on site by police, according to the New York Times. Now, the suspect has been identified as a young man, 18 years old. And, this guy, his name is, I'm not going to say his name because that would be glorifying it. But apparently this individual wanted to be female. And, so I don't know when, okay, let's just cut to the chase here. Not every transgender person, honestly, not every transgender person is going to go out and do this, just like not every black individual is a criminal. However, All of that being said, there is an alarming uptick in incidences where these school shooters are transgender or trans identifying. And we're sitting here, and let's be honest, we are sitting here as a society, and I'm talking about America directly. We're sitting here as a society that has, one, seemingly made mental illness and seemingly made things like drug addiction a regularity in our society. Dan Bongino mentioned on his show today, which I don't know if anybody watches him, but if you do get a chance, you should. But he mentioned on his show today, he showed a couple of videos done by Nick Shirley, the same independent journalist that went out and showed the fraud in Minnesota. Well, he's now in another location. And he was talking to some of the people who go on the street to help some of the homeless. Now, for those of you that don't know, drug abuse is rampant among the homeless. And as a part of this, they showed one individual, he interviewed one individual who was handing out Narcan. He basically was finding Narcan, and Narcan is, showing up. They're going along the streets. They find somebody, and there's a body in the video. There was a body laying there, and Nick is like, "Hey, how do you know this guy's still alive?" I chuckle because it's just like, how do you know this guy's still alive? And they're like, "Oh yeah, see his chest? It's still breathing." So he says, "All right, well then what's your protocol?" And he goes, "Oh, we just fill him with as much Narcan as we have and hope for the best." Now, that part isn't the most disturbing part. What is the most disturbing part is after you revive this individual, there's another individual who is running around on the streets who is basically going, "Hey, Mr. or Mrs. drug user, guess what? We want to make sure that you have clean needles." And so they're handing out clean hypodermic needles to these people. I was like, wait a minute. What? You're reviving them with Narcan and then coming around behind and going, "All right, let's hand out the needles." Now, Coco asks a good question over here. Can you OD on Narcan? And according to the gentleman who was there, he's like, "Nah, you just give him as much as you had." He had, apparently in the video, he states that he had 3 vials, and he's like, "I'll just give him all 3. So I don't think there's necessarily a risk of ODing on Narcan. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Don't quote me on that. But still, the question, it has to be asked. What the hell is going on? What is going on with our society where we are basically saying, "Hey, if you have troubles, we're not going to bother helping you out. We're just going to accept it. Sometimes even promote it rather than telling people the truth, like a drug addict or a mentally ill person. You need help. Period." It's like, why? Why are we doing this? I really don't. I don't understand. When did it all of a sudden become taboo to basically tell somebody, "You know what, you're screwed up and you need some help"? But no, we're not doing it. Now, one thing about this shooter in Canada, this sort of blows the narrative out of the water that, hey, shootings are only happening in the United States. That's not true. We know it's not true, but it doesn't fit the narrative because everybody in the left wants everyone to think that America is just the Wild West. We're not, by the way. But, yeah. Anyway, I don't know. I honestly don't know. When are we going to start doing the right thing? And here's another story Now, this may seem that I'm like picking on transgenders. I just want you to understand. No, I'm not. But once again, we have yet another example. Another example of why men should not be and boys should not be in girls' sports. So here we have a high school transgender identifying athlete came in first again after participating in a girls' track and field competition in California over the weekend. Again. You can sit here and argue all you want, okay? You can sit here and argue all you want about the fact that, hey, you know, boys should be allowed to participate in girls' sports. They should be allowed to participate in girls' sports. There's no scientific evidence that demonstrates that men or boys are stronger than girls. That's entirely false, by the way. There is a plethora of not only actual scientific studies, but also a plethora of anecdotal information like this. Okay? Like this. Now, this individual who did this, reportedly set a record for jumping 39 feet, 10 inches in the girls' triple jump. And this, according to the New York Post, 39 feet, 10 inches. That's roughly 6 3/4 inches farther than the second place person, and a couple of feet from the third place person. Yeah. So anyway, again, when are we going to start realizing that this is definitely not, this is not what we should be doing here? And speaking of men competing in women's sports, a very disgusting thing came out of my own Puyallup, Washington, folks. Now, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I used to wrestle in high school. I wrestled 3 out of 4 years in high school. I did not wrestle my senior year, but I wrestled freshman, sophomore, and junior years. And I got to tell you, when you are wrestling, there are times where, mistakes can be made. And maybe, some fingers or hands go in places that they probably never should. However, whenever that happens, it's usually one of those things that it's a brief, momentary set. It doesn't happen very often, but if it does happen, it's very brief, very momentary. The realization, because believe me, when you wrestle, you gain a observation of not only where you are aware of where the other person's hands are on your body, but you're also very well aware of where your hands are on their body. Now, during my wrestling career, which was very brief, I only wrestled one singular girl. And I'm going to be honest with you, I lost to her because I was, let's just say, a little nervous about touching certain areas on this person's individual body. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I lost. Do I think that I should go back and have redone it? Okay, maybe. But I was, in a way, because of my thought process, because of the way that I was raised, because of the way that I was taught to treat young ladies, my mindset wasn't there. As soon as I found out she was a girl, that was it. All bets were off. I didn't want to be there. I wasn't interested in wrestling her. And when I did finally get into the match, it was like, where the hell do I put my hands? Because there are certain moves where, you're grabbing and touching in places that, as a man on a woman, is, well, it's I would consider it inappropriate. But this, even regardless of all that, even if you just like are grabbing somebody and like pulling them out of the way or of a danger or something along those lines, and you're, you know, touching areas that you probably shouldn't be, at least there is a little bit of a you know, an excuse. You can say, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Even if you're brushing by somebody on the train or on a bus or something along those lines, buses can get really packed and trains can get packed and public spaces can get packed. And there's times where, you know, your hips run against a woman's hips or butt or whatever. And in those kinds of scenarios, I mean, yes, it is uncomfortable. It's awkward, but just imagine what wrestling would be like. Well, here's a short clip. And this was video taken by the mother. And just to set this up appropriately, these two people are wrestling in a match at a Puyallup high school. Now, let's watch this video. It's very quick, 16 seconds.
Get to your base! Get to your base! Get to your base! I don't know what she said to you, but why her face looks like that.
Okay, so really quickly, I just want to comment. Did you hear her say, I don't know, this is mom, I don't know why her face was like that or why she was mouthing, she obviously was mouthing something. So here, I'm going to back this up and I want to show you right here. Now, this isn't the point where it happens because here the individual on top is attempting to roll this person over, obviously, to get a pin. And you can see through the video that their hand, right, well, wait a minute. Let me back this up just a little bit here. So here you can see, and hopefully this will work here. You can see their hand is in between their legs. Now this, I'm just telling you, this is typical in a wrestling match. Okay, this is typical. Having the hand in between the leg like this, you're trying to like grab onto the leg. You're trying to control the leg. You're trying to block the person from rolling over. Okay, you're trying to block that. You can see how this scenario is about ready to play out. So we know that the individual's hand is in between the opponent's legs. Now I'm going to advance it here to the point where the person on the bottom all of a sudden turns around. Oh, well, wait a minute. Here it is. It's right here. So you can see here in the video, the person they're trying to struggle to get up. They're trying to get flat. And then this is a girl on the bottom. Look at the face. Now I'm going to advance this. You can see, got a look of concern here. Trying to, and I'm advancing this bit by bit here. You can see she's looking right at her mother. And there, now we can really see between the two. Let me back this up and put this in a more appropriate spot so you can see both. So there's the girl's face on the ground and the hand in the crotch, the arm of the opponent in the crotch. And here's what happened, folks. Here's what happened. First of all, that opponent that you see on the top, it's a man. It's a boy, identifying as a woman, as a girl. Okay. And what apparently happened is that the video that was being taken by Callie's mom, that's the girl's name, Callie's mom, on December 6th, captures the disgust and panic on Callie's face. She is mouthing to her mom, "Her fingers are in my vagina." Now, her mom can't make out what she's saying, and you obviously can't see what's going on in between the legs because of the fact, the angle of the video, and the referee is on the opposite side of the body. Now, the mom can be heard saying to somebody off camera, "I don't know what she said. I don't know why her face looked like that." Well, Callie lost the match. She reportedly testified afterwards saying, "I just wanted the match to be over." She was awkward when she was saying this. So apparently what ended up happening is this individual stuck his fingers, and yes, I am going to say his fingers, forcefully, according to the reports, forcefully into this girl's private area. Folks, this is a huge issue. See, okay, now keep in mind, an individual, and let's just be real about this, okay? We have the Loudoun County. We have the Loudoun County issue where a person identified as a transgender went into the girls' bathroom and raped girls. Okay? Now, apparently, according to some of the people that Callie has talked to, or has mentioned, that more girls are being just hurt. Or, sorry, more girls than her were being hurt. So there are more than a couple of people, apparently, where this has happened to. But this particular individual, and I don't know if it's just this individual or if it's just more others, but seriously, what the hell? Now, my state of Washington is going to vote, apparently, in September, or in the fall, on whether or not males can participate in female sports. Now, this matter, just to be clear, is currently under investigation. The Pierce County Sheriff's Office informed the reported Undivided that it has launched a criminal probe into this. The school resource officer informed the outlet that he was called by the school to investigate a report of sexual assault at a wrestling match. And you sit here and I'm just going to say, just flat out, okay? You sit here and you say that this is something that, oh, no. If you talk to a leftist right now, the leftist would be like, oh, no, this doesn't happen. This doesn't happen. I'm sorry, but yeah, it does. There are, and this is exactly what the right was saying. When you sit here and you allow general structures of society to be broken, such as allowing men to go into women's restrooms just because they identified as a woman. Just sitting there and go, I mean, how many times have we heard, and maybe even not even heard, but how many times have we been, told that, hey, there's guys that'll go into the girls' locker rooms. And I mean, a perfect example was Leah Thomas, whatever his freaking name is, where, they were saying, oh, yeah, he's walking around and, totally out in the open and everything else. We've also heard stories of men going into women's spa rooms and being caught in L.A. There was an incident where a man walked in, no towel, nothing, erect, walking around in the women's space. I mean, seriously, folks, seriously, it's time for us to wake up to reality. It's time for us to understand. And by us, I mean the right. We cannot give these people an inch. Look, I understand you have, as a transgender, you have a challenge here. You have a mental challenge that you're dealing with. And honestly, this is going to sound a little degrading, but this is the truth. It's no different than, say, a gambler with a gambling addiction, an alcoholic with an alcohol addiction, and especially when we're talking about young kids. Because again, I'm going to refer back to the absolutely wonderful interview that I did. And again, I'm not much of an interviewer, but back to the wonderful interview of our Australian contingent, Becky, who is transgender. And, obviously, sitting here, you look at the statistics. Boys and girls don't go and just magically decide to change their sex or their, their gender or whatever, or even change species, because that's another thing. Oh, yeah, it's all the furries that are running around. People are running around. Oh, my God, we put cat boxes in frickin' schools. Come on. Seriously? You put a cat box in the bathroom so that a person who identifies as a frickin' cat can go running off and go to the bathroom in a cat box. What the hell is wrong with us? Folks, we're coddling these people. And again, this is no different than an addict, another kind of addict, whether it's a drug addict, an alcohol addict, a gambling addict, sex addict. We're coddling these people. We're enabling these people to do this stuff when we actually should be trying to help them out in reality. I mean, this is no different than down in California, that Senator Wiener, that California Senator Wiener. He wants to freaking make it so that kids as young as 14 or whatever, 14, 15, seriously. What the hell? Folks, there is a certain set of societal standards. There's a certain set of societal standards that should be set in stone and nothing changes. And this is where things are coming from. Now, you sit here and you tell me that, stuff like this doesn't happen. But yet it does. Every single day it does. Every single week it does. And again, and I point this out because Brandy Cruz, who is a journalist, yes, I'm going to call her a journalist. She's a journalist here in my area. She actually interviewed wrestling coaches in this particular case who reviewed the footage. And it basically said, hey, do finger slips happen? Hello, finger slips happen in freaking cheerleading, as an example. When you pick up a cheerleader and hold them up above your head in college or whatever, yeah, finger slips are going to happen. It's brief. It's unintentional. They're rare. And usually the wrestler quickly moves the hand away from the area, lest they receive a foul or a disqualification from the individuals. And two wrestling coaches, one male, one female, during the interviews, said that the actions of this young girl's opponent looked intentional. Now, the state's going to vote, meaning Washington, is going to vote on barring biological males from competing in women's sports this fall, like I said. But that's the thing, folks. We need to start realizing that we can't be coddling the individuals that are running around here doing this stuff, that we need to give them help. We need to give them help. That's what we need to give them. And just to give you a brief look, here's the look. I mean, look at this. Here's the let me try and zoom in. There's the look of horror on the face of this young girl as she's basically being sexually assaulted in public in front of everybody. She's even admitted that she doesn't feel like she wants to go back. Now, here's the thing, and this I haven't mentioned at all yet, but this would make you even more mad. She wasn't even aware that the guy was a guy until after this incident. Not that it makes any difference, because regardless of whether the opponent was male or female, she was sexually assaulted. And apparently, at least for all intents and purposes, apparently intentionally sexually assaulted. But just imagine, when it happens, you're sitting there thinking, oh my God, this girl is fingering me. She's a girl. And then finding out, no, that girl was actually a boy. Could you imagine the humiliation that was even more? Folks, we need to protect these young women. We need to protect them. This is utterly ridiculous. It is sick. It is disgusting. And there are so many people on the left who want to make this crap. They want to make it a freaking, common occurrence. Same thing goes with the whole pedophilia thing. Yeah. It's totally disgusting in my view. All right. Enough of that. But I'm telling you, folks, I mean, I'm just going to say it out loud. This is happening more so than it's even being reported. I mean, this young lady was brave enough to tell her mom about this situation, and her mom is brave enough, and she is brave enough to stand up and say, hey, this is wrong. We need something done about it. Just like with sexual assault that happens from men on women, or even women on men. They have statistics that basically show that sexual assault in and of itself, regardless of the perpetrator, is very rarely reported. You remember this whole Me Too movement that happened in the past? Okay? This Me Too movement, you remember all that? Well, where are they now? Where are they now? I mean, I'm fairly certain that this wouldn't even being reported at all by any of the mainstream media. This is horrible. And I feel very, very sad for that young lady. She may get to a point where she won't ever wrestle ever again, which may or may not be sad. I mean, sad, obviously, period, but by may or may not be, that might be the best decision for her. Anyway. All right, let's move on. So the seditious six. Yeah, woke grand jury has decided that the seditious six are not seditious enough, apparently. Yeah. So now why? I'm not surprised. This is a Washington, D.C. grand jury. Let's be honest. You're not going to get a fair trial anywhere there anyway. So they've refused to indict anybody from the seditious six. But Mark Kelly is still under investigation and should be court-martialed. Now, I'm going to remind everybody In terms of the seditious six, what did they violate? At a very minimum, this is what they violated. 18 United States Code, Section 2387, which states clearly, whoever, with the intent to interfere with, impair, or influence the loyalty, morale, or discipline of the military or naval forces of the United States, advises, counsels, urges, or in any manner causes or attempts to cause insubordination, disloyalty, mutiny, or refusal of duty by any member of the military or the naval forces of the United States. That right there. I mean, I can't get any clearer. This was not a simple, First Amendment right to declare, a free speech. No, they specifically stated, all six of them specifically stated in the video, that there were illegal orders and that they were supposed to, meaning the military, were supposed to ignore illegal orders. And they didn't identify what was illegal. They didn't identify, what was unlawful or unconstitutional. They didn't identify any of that. But they intentionally attempted to cause insubordination, disloyalty, mutiny, or refusal of duty. And it's all because of the fact that you're in a Washington, D.C. court system. I can't even imagine. I can't. I can't even imagine how stupid these people actually are. Anyway. Well, one senator, apparently, Senator Tom Tillis, he praised the decision, calling the prosecution attempt a move that undermines America's criminal justice system. How does that undermine the American criminal justice system? Letting them go is what undermined the criminal justice system. And this guy is a Senate Republican. He's known for breaking with the Trump administration. He's a Republican out of North Carolina. In other words, by the way, those are rhinos. So there you go. Anyway, Tom Tillis, you need to get rid of him. All right. A couple of really good pieces of news. First of all, economics report came out. We added almost double what was expected for new jobs. The unemployment rate dropped 0.1% to 4.3%. This is demonstrating that Trump's economy and economic choices are working. They are working slowly, but then again, we do have 4 years to repair. But the U.S. economy created 130,000 new jobs in January. Economists had only expected 70,000 new jobs. Also, the loss of federal government jobs was around 70,000. So, yeah. Good news there. And also, another good news, and the left can't seem to frame this correctly, but plummeting crime rates everywhere. Axios posted and the New York Times has been posting on a study that's showing that crime rate in the United States has declined in all 7 categories of violent crime. They're all falling below pre-pandemic levels. Now, the New York Times noted that researchers were having trouble explaining the drop in crime. Well, I can explain it. You're starting to freaking enforce the law. Oh, my God. How stupid can this be? Anyway, and I'm not saying that it's I'm not going to necessarily say that it's because of Trump, but let's be honest, it's because of Trump. Trump getting into office was a wake-up call to all of these idiots and morons and droogs that are sitting out there not enforcing any of these laws. that all of a sudden they're having these laws enforced. Yeah, not to mention the fact that let's say the National Guard got deployed to some of the worst offending cities. Oh, and let's not even account for the fact that Donald Trump has been deporting or capturing and deporting the illegal criminals that are continually making crime. Because again, keep in mind, statistics are showing that only a small percentage of the population is actually responsible for the vast majority of crime. I mean, it just makes sense. You take that small percentage of the population, you round them up, you stick them in jail, and they no longer are going to be doing crime. So yes, of course, crime is going to drop. How smart? Ugh, these people, they're just not very smart at all. That's all I gotta say. Yeah. 21% of homicides dropped from 2024. 43% in carjackings from 2024. 20% plus in deaths from overdoses from 2024. Yeah, that's just the start. But of course, you can't give the left any kind of credit. Now, Axios has got to win the most stupid for the day because their headline is Crime Plunges in Major Cities Despite Trump's Crackdown Rhetoric. It's because of the crackdown rhetoric. Oh my God, I can't even believe it. Chicago, remember I told you last night, Chicago's mayor even said, hey, our crime is down 30% overall. Gee, I wonder why. Could it maybe be the increased presence of law enforcement, regardless of whether it's federal agents, National Guard, or local police? Could it be that? Maybe. All right, enough about all of this. Let's get on to the pet of the week. We're going to make things happy. Yeah. All right. Here we are, pet of the week. So anybody who has been in the chat, all right, has known about our friend Ms. T. And Ms. T had to go and travel to go and check out, or, well, not check out, but have her long-time puppy checked out. So tonight, we're going to ask for some positive vibes for this. And excuse me while I get the screen set up properly because I don't have a proper person. But here, this is Dory. And Dory is, she's 14 and a half years old. This photo was taken back in November of 2011 when they when they brought her home. Okay. And, let's just talk a little bit about what's going on with Dory. So apparently Dory is being treated for a gallbladder inflammation issue. And it took going to Texas A&M up in, I'm not going to say where, but took her up, and they took her to go see a vet because most small vets don't have the equipment to actually test for the condition. When they first thought it was Cushing's disease, because apparently she lost 4 pounds since November. Now, keep in mind, this little pup only weighs 14 pounds, so losing 4 pounds is just huge for her, losing that amount of weight. Now, this next photo that I'm going to show you is, yeah, by the way, it's spelled D-O-R-I-E. Anyway, here's this next photo. And I want to point out, for anybody who is interested in whether or not there is a G, I have to zoom in on this. There is G. G is hanging out, waiting for their appointment. So yes, G does exist. He does not sit on the couch. He's not sitting on the couch tonight, but there he is, I guess. So anyway, here you go. There's some photos of Dory and hanging out, and these were obviously all taken when they were heading up to Texas A&M. And there's little Dory. Now, just so everybody knows, by the way, Dory is not, he's a interesting breed, but Dory, Dory is a, God, I'm going to tear this up, I know. Coton de Tulare. Coton de Tulare. Tulare, that's it. Coton de Tulare. That's what she is. Yeah, I called out like some sort of a Pomeranian or a Shih Tzu or something like that is what I was thinking. Anyway. Apparently in the old days, they were the royal dogs of Madagascar. And they were brought over here to the States since the late 70s. Before becoming royal companions, apparently, this breed was ratters on pirate ships. And apparently, one of the things that you do with these dogs is you don't trim them. You don't cut their hair, other than what is considered to be what is called a sanitary trim. So the hair that you see has been basically on her since she since she was transitioned from puppy hair to adult hair. Her tail has hair on it that is 18 inches long. And they apparently have curly tails for this. So there you go. Anyway. So we need some good prayers for Dory that she can get through this, and for obviously Ms. T and G for their connection into this. So that is tonight's Pet of the Week. All right. And that, of course, ends the show. So that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com. Get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Also, too, don't forget to hit those thumbs up, thumbs downs, or the thumb sideways across all of my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, or, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.